Hello, we are live on LNC chat with Rueben Abati. I'm so excited to have Rueben Abati today as our guest. As you know, last week we had our very first guest, who was Dr. Joe Arba, and today we have another high-profile guest in Rueben Abati. Ruben needs no introduction, so I'm actually just going to skip all that and, to run through introduction. It needs no introduction. But you know what? I would like to ask Ruben, how would you like to be introduced? Would you like to be introduced as the former media aide to President Goodluck Jonathan or a writer? How would you like to be introduced?
whichever way you choose. Afternoon, everybody. Great pleasure to be here. And thank you, Jude, for inviting me. Always a delight to have a chat to discuss national issues.
Fantastic, fantastic. Many people may not be aware of this, but you got a first-class honors and a vice chancellor's prize for the student with the best overall academic performance in your graduating class. Did you actually think you would end up being an academic?
Yeah, actually, I mean, my original training was to end up as an academic. And that was why, I went all the way, took a PhD, and took other qualifications and all that. But somehow I found myself in journalism because part of our training included media arts, communication arts. And so, even when you are studying literature, drama, and all of that, you find yourself writing actively for the Nigerian press. And I've been writing for the Nigerian press actively since about 1985, either as a freelancer or as a contributing editor. So I was teaching. I was a teaching assistant in Ibadan. Later, I went to teach at Olabisi Onabanjo University. And then the universities were shut down for more than a year. So it was during that period that I drifted and I went into full-time journalism. And in journalism, I mean, I've done romance journalism. I've done whatever it is that anybody can do. But looking back, I don't regret leaving the campus, because I continued to teach up till 1999 as a visiting lecturer at Olabisi Onabanjo University, Ogun State University, as it then was. But when I went to study law and I got to final year at the Faculty of Law in Lagos State University, I couldn't combine teaching and my work at the Guardian with, the final year work in the Faculty of Law. So I had to stop teaching to focus on law. And after that, I didn't bother to go back.
Wow. There's something I want to ask. How did you end up being a media advisor?
Well, I mean,
how did that come to be?
Well, I just got invited by President Jonathan that he wanted to see me, and I went there. We had a meeting, and I told him, well, I mean, I'm chairman editorial board of The Guardian. I can't just go and take another job like that. You will have to talk to Mr. Ibro. If Mr. Ibro agrees, then, maybe, I can come on that national assignment. So he spoke with Mr. Ibro back and forth, and he told Mr. Ibro, please release this man to us on national assignment. And when he finishes, he would come back. And I held a discussion with Mr. Ibro, Mr. Alex Ibro, that is our publisher. He had his reservations, but I also thought, well, I'd been chairman editorial board for almost 11 years, and I had this sense of, adventure, wanting to try my hands at other things. And I was curious about how government works. So curiosity took me there, a sense of adventure took me there. But looking back, I have no regrets.
I was actually, now you're preempting me, but I'm not going to go. I will hold back. But I'm sure you're aware that many of your admirers, majority of them were disappointed you took up the position as a special advisor. What do you have to say about that? To that.
Well, I'm aware of that. I mean, you see, the thing about this job is that, after a while, you develop a persona, a public persona. And if people perceive that, there is some kind of difference in the choices that you make, a number of people will become critical, they'll become, uncomfortable with the choice that you have made. But I will say this, because this is a question I've had to respond to on so many occasions, that I think it's not a bad thing for people who are in the public, in the private sector, in whatever capacity, to also go and experience what goes on in government. I mean, having spent 4 years in government and coming out, I think I have a much better understanding of how government works. Actually, I wouldn't say I spent just 4 years in government, because I've been connected with, the government arena in some other capacities. I was on the governing council of Olabisi Onabanjo University for 4 years. I was part of the original board of the Lagos State Security Trust Fund. I did that also for 4 years, so that's 8 years. The 4 years in the Jonathan government was another 4 years. So I've had about 12 years experience in different areas of government: education, security, and then, media management. But people don't talk about those board appointments, even if they were also very rigorous and involving assignments, because, those two appointments were not really in the public glare. So I think it's very useful experience, because when you stay on this side and you do the criticism, you assess government, when you work inside government in one capacity or the other, you acquire some useful knowledge. And I would like to encourage anybody else, who has the opportunity, who gets invited, to give it a shot. But I understand what happened. I mean, I was spokesperson for the government, and that's a very delicate assignment. You end up becoming the fall guy, for so many things. You end up taking the bullet, and people will forget that, look, you have a particular job to do, which is different from that of a social critic, that of a newspaper columnist, or that of a newspaper editor, or that of a journalist. So I think that's what happened. But I think in the fullness of time, quite a number of people may well realize that every experience is useful.
Was it very difficult?
The job of a spokesman is a very difficult job. As I have told you, you become the fall guy, you take the bullets, you get blamed for things you may not even be involved in. And, sometimes even the people you work for, either your boss or other people within the system, they can throw you under the bus. And you are just expected to take it in your stride. Because the overall objective is to make sure that government succeeds, and that, you all work as a team.
You have been out of government, or out of Aso Rock for a few years now. I'm going to ask you this question. You've had to think back, and you've had to go through so many instances, so many challenges. What could you have done better or different with the Chibok girls?
Well, you see, there's a lot of misconception, misinterpretation, misrepresentation over how the Jonathan government, handled the Chibok girls crisis. One of the myths out there was that the president did not respond on time. And we've had to explain this, that it is not true. I mean, the statement may not have come out almost immediately, but immediately we were outside the country when the crisis occurred. And then we had to return to the country immediately. And immediately the president got back. He put in process, a series of meetings and interface with the governor of the state, leading to, a lot of other meetings, requests for documents, the security chiefs being asked to do their job. But, we had a very partisan situation at the time. The opposition party at that time was hyperactive. It's unlike now, when the opposition seems not to be as organized as the APC was at the time. So they capitalized on the situation, and they were putting out a lot of black propaganda and a lot of other issues, that were largely political. But what Nigerians will realize in retrospect is that the crisis of Boko Haram predated even the Jonathan government. And it's part of the foundation that the Jonathan government managed to lay, that the present government has been able to build upon to continue with the struggle. So I think when we discuss this issue, we're talking about human lives. And, all of us are parents. Nobody will say, the lives of those girls should be joked with or should be toyed with. And we have also seen that Government is continuous. Where the Jonathan administration left off, this administration has continued. And there have also been, very serious challenges in terms of security. So it's about national security. It's not about politics. And that's why people who talk about these issues should realize that we're dealing with national security. We're dealing with human lives. We're not talking about, politics or who can grandstand better than the other party.
I am aware that the Jonathan presidency achieved quite a bit. But if there were to be one thing that you are most proud of, but Nigerians didn't get, or it was swept under the carpet, what would that thing be?
Well, what would that be? Because there were so many things that the Jonathan administration. But if you ask me to single out one, I think the freedom, of information, the freedom that people enjoyed under the Jonathan government. Most people now will tell you that they felt a higher sense of freedom under that administration. If there is another thing, if you allow me to add to it, it will be electoral integrity. That I think is a major legacy of President Jonathan. People had the confidence that their votes counted and would always count under President Jonathan. I don't think that is the situation now. And that should be a message to the present administration that one of the things that President Buhari can leave behind at the end of the day or sustain is the integrity of the ballot box. If he's able to sustain that and achieve it, that would be, real statesmanship. And I think that is important going forward.
Were you ever aware of the now former President Jonathan's plan to accept the outcome of the results?
Whether I was aware of it or not?
Yes.
Oh, of course. He called me after it was very clear and the announcement was going to be made. I think he was in the office on that day by about 7 a.m. And he called me at home and he said, "Oh, Reuben, come quickly. I think we have to give it up." So I met him in the office and he said, "Look, we have to leave. So go and draft a speech for me. And this is what I want you to say in the speech." This was at 7 a.m. I went to my office after taking notes from him. And then I went back. The draft was ready maybe around 10 or thereabouts. It wasn't supposed to be a long speech. It was just some short acceptance speech and congratulating the president-elect. So by the time I go back to the residence, there were people there already. And then he told them, "Look, I had already asked Reuben to do a draft." Then some other person said, "Oh, they would like to make inputs into the draft." I went back to my office after I showed him the initial draft. Then people started coming to me, "Oh, the president has said you should add this paragraph. The president has said you should add that paragraph." I was going back and forth. I would go back thinking that he was the one sending those people to me. And I will show him another draft. I will say, "Where did you get this from? This is not what I asked you to say." I will say, "But you send this person to me to come and tell me to add this." He will say, "No, that's not what I want to say. Just go and say exactly what I want to say." I'll go back. Some other person will come, and some of these people are people with big titles. They'll say, because by now more people were going to him and all that. But he wanted to say what he wanted to say. Okay, so eventually I completed the script. I took it back. When he saw that, the speech reflected exactly what he wanted to say, then he said, "Okay, this is fine." And because of people going back and forth and bringing suggestions, and I assumed that it was the president sending them, we didn't record his former speech until late that evening. Okay, but of course, before then, he had made you a phone call. Why am I telling all this story? It will be a story that I will tell in greater detail when I write my own account of what transpired. Why am I saying all this? Because I've read a number of books, and a number of commentaries in the newspapers in which all kinds of people are claiming credit, saying they were the ones who told the president, they were the ones who pushed him. There was never a time that he said he was not going to give it up. Because you recall that he had kept making the statement that his ambition was not worth the blood of any Nigerian. you know. But of course, you know, when things happen like that, people will come around, they will say they are advising the president, including those who were saying, look, let us go to court. We will contest this thing. And the president kept saying, no, he doesn't want to go to any court. He doesn't want any violence in Nigeria on account of his own ambition. So the credit is his. Okay, so all those people taking the credit and all that, you know, he will probably explain it even better in his own book, which is working on something about the last days, because those last days were really very tough. People deserted the presidency, you know, the place became ghost town. It was just the president and about 3 or 4 of us, you know, but it's okay. We thank God for everything.
What were the qualities you admired in the then president, Goodluck Jonathan?
Well, number one is his humility. You know, I don't know too many people who will be in that kind of important position and they will be as humble as he was, and he still is. That humility is very important. Okay, I mean, I recall on those occasions when we had disagreements, and I would say, no, I don't think so. I did this and they did that. You know, then later we will laugh over it. Say, sometimes you forget I'm the president. You know, and we will laugh about it and we'll say, okay, if this is your logic, this is the way I see it, because I have a clearer picture, what do they call this thing? Helicopter picture of the situation. So it was a boss that you could argue with, you could discuss with, and you will not feel that they will fire you because you are expressing an independent opinion. Okay, he may not take your opinion at the end of the day, but he will give you the chance to say what you have to say. Another thing that I admire in him also is his patience. There were many occasions people will come around, you know, and they will be lying to him. And he will know that this man is lying. You know, and he would listen very patiently, you would think that he was engrossed with what, meanwhile, I could see his countenance, that he knew that this person is a liar and an idiot. That you would never see it in his response. He will even encourage the person, he will say, thank you very much, and all that. After the person will have left, I will say, sir, but I don't understand. You know that man was lying to you. You know that what he was saying was not correct. You say, no, I'm not a journalist, I'm a politician. You say, my job as a politician is to give people hope. Even when they are lying to you, you give them hope. But you will know what you want to do, you know the truth. But you cannot, as I act like a journalist and call somebody an idiot to his face. So those are things that, you know, it took me some time to get used to that, because if you come before me and you are lying or you are misbehaving or you are saying something I don't like, I'm not that very patient. I will tell you immediately that I think you are talking rubbish. You know, but he's not that kind of person. He's very accommodating. And I think that, you know, that's one of his qualities. I doubt if I can be that patient with people.
Wow. Reuben, could you tell us one good thing, one bad thing, and one ugly thing about this present government? Good, bad, and ugly.
Well, I think if I think of one good thing, now this one is coming all of a sudden. But I think one good thing, of course, is that the president, as a person, is a father figure to a lot of people. He's considered, he has a fanatical following. The people who believe in him with passion. There is nothing he will do that will be wrong. So it's almost like, pardon me to use the word, permit me to use the word. It's almost like a cult. It's a cult-like following. Even on Twitter, where on social media, where he's most criticized, the people who believe in him, there's no amount of logic you push in their faces that they will accept. So I think for a leader, that's a good thing, because I know that leaders, they like to be liked. You know, they like people to love them. If you know any political leader or any politician, what is most important to them is that some people admire them and some people follow them, either blindly or emotionally or whatever. You know, it makes them happy. And I think that in his career, the present president has been able to build a very large following. Okay, whether that is good for democracy or not, it's another thing entirely. The second thing, of course, is the good part of the bad part of it is that the people who relate with this government, they do so more out of fear. You know, there are a lot of people, you don't have that kind of openness that you had, say, maybe under Jonathan, Yaradua, even Obasanjo, as hands-on as Obasanjo was. You know, people felt that they were living in an open society. They felt a sense of freedom. You know, they could express themselves. And you could see the very peak of that freedom of speech, freedom of choice, freedom of everything under Jonathan. Then under this government, you see people are very cagey, they are afraid, you know, they are beginning to loosen up a little bit, but I don't think it's a very good thing, you know, for people to fear government. I think it's better if people respect government. So I see that regime of fear, and that's why some people talk about, you know, military-like kind of culture that has been more or less imposed under this administration. The ugly part of it, and I'm just using the categories that you yourself define.
Yes.
Is that the government has not been able to meet the people at the level of their expectations. Okay, because of that followership that President Buhari had. I mean, it was a major reason for his own success, because people believed in him, you know, and they expected a lot from him. His maturity, his integrity, his experience. Okay, people thought, look, this man has been there before. Some of the things we were expecting, if we didn't get, you know, this president will get there and give us those things. So the challenge that I see, therefore, is that he has not been able to meet the people's expectations. And that's responsible for the disappointment, the feeling of disappointment that you find generally among the people. And that's why the change that you promised, the people can't see it yet. So they are asking that the change should also be changed. And this must be a lesson for everybody who seeks political office, either at the federal level or at the state level, to avoid the danger of overpromising and under. So that, I think, is the ugly part of it. You know, overpromising and under-delivering and not meeting the people's expectations.
That's interesting. Idowu Oyewole has kindly joined us, and Idowu has asked us to ask you on the current Benue situation. Are we not diverting Benue's budget away to be spent into frivolous IDP camps? Is someone causing this situation?
He's talking about the budget for Benue State?
Diverting. Yeah, I think it's all to do with the current Benue situation. The question is, are we not diverting Benue's budget away to be spent into frivolous IDP camps? Is someone causing this situation?
Well, diversion is a very serious allegation. But diversion, we even border on criminality. So the absence of the facts, we really cannot insist that anybody is diverting anything. If you allege diversion, then you must be able to prove it. However, you know, the major issue is that the security situation in Benue State is very bad. We've had cases of killings, conflicts between pastoralists and Fulani herdsmen. A lot of lives have been lost. You know, Benue State almost becoming a killing field. And it's not just Benue State, other states are affected. Adamawa, Taraba, Kaduna, and all that. And this is a very a big source of anxiety and agitation, not just for Nigerians, but also the international community, because it will look like under this administration, we're not just dealing with Boko Haram, which is still there. The crisis is still there. We're also at the same time dealing with other forms of low-level insurgency, you know, and conflict and violence, mutating, spreading. Okay, so it's important to address that. The second part of it, of course, is the issue of the internally displaced persons. Amnesty International just issued a report giving an impression of what goes on in many of those camps. Okay, there have been cases of corruption involving the diversion of materials meant for taking care of the people in the IDPs. Okay, that has been established, and there are persons who have even been taken to court for diverting some resources. Okay, so if that's the diversion that he has in mind, and not maybe diversion of budget, maybe that has been reported. Then you have issues of rape, inhuman treatment of IDPs. The long-term objective that all of us should be insisting upon is that, look, the security situation should be addressed, and Nigeria should become a safer place for everyone, be they Christians or Muslims, be they herdsmen or pastoralists. And that persons who are internally displaced, their numbers should reduce, and people should be able to live in peace in their homes. The overall assignment of government being the security and the welfare of the people. I think if we frame it that way, we'll be dealing with the basic issues involved in that question.
Let me go back to the forthcoming elections. What advice would you give Nigerians in terms of how to comport themselves? And the other question is there hope for Nigeria in choosing in choosing a leader that would actually get the people to the promised land? Is there a promised land for Nigeria? In America, we have what is called, the great promise, the American dream. What is the Nigerian dream?
Well, the future is in the hands of Nigerians themselves. Recently, there's been, a well-coordinated, articulate campaign in the Nigerian media, both online and offline, asking people to go and get their voters card, what we call the PVC. So I'm, happy, impressed with the fact that there is that voter consciousness. Voter consciousness in Nigeria now is at an all-time high level. So the responsibility of the state and of the relevant authorities of the state will be to ensure and to encourage the people to make a choice, an informed choice, and for that choice to be made to count. So there's a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of INEC, of the police, and other relevant security agencies, of INEC officials and ad hoc staff, but even more importantly, on the shoulders of the president himself, on his desk, the buck stops. As for a future for Nigeria, well, we have to remain optimistic. All things considered, since the return to democratic rule, civilian rule in 1999, this country has made a lot of progress. This is not where we were in 1999, and if you look around, even in terms of basic development across the country, even in terms of the level of confidence of the people, a lot has been achieved. And you find that, yes, some governments may not achieve as much as others, but it is important that the right of the people to choose is, a concept, an idea, and a process that has been well established. And we can only hope and appeal that the government of the day should also ensure that emerging tradition is sustained.
Reuben, is there a disconnect between Aso Rock and the people?
Well, there shouldn't be a disconnect between Aso Rock and the people, because after all, Aso Rock belongs to the people. Oftentimes, maybe people in positions of power and authority forget that. Aso Rock is the property of the people, and the people who go to Aso Rock are there on behalf of the people. Okay, and their responsibility is to serve the people. So that distance should not be there. But of course, we have this crisis of alienation, between the Nigerian government and the people at various levels. And that's probably what is responsible for the creeping anomaly, for the disenchantment, for the discontent, for the disappointment that we'll talk about. But the responsibility of government will be to make sure that that gap does not exist. And that gap will be closed. That gap will be redefined, if government continues to serve the people and meet them at their points of needs. Because if you look at Nigerians don't need too much. The basic needs of every Nigerian, be they Igbo or Fulani or whatever, they just want to live well. Okay? They want to be safe. They want to be able to provide for their families. They want to be able to have a sense of progress and personal fulfillment. Now, if government can just do that at various levels, I don't think Nigerians are that difficult to lead. But we then have these other complex issues that government always has to deal with: ethnicity, religion, identity crisis, which politicians exploit. Okay, and that I think is part of the unfortunate aspect of our reality. But we keep looking for progressive leadership, conscientious leadership, and as long as the people continue to insist, and with the if you like to call it the dictatorship of the Nigerian voter now, and the confidence that keeps growing, I believe that we will get there. Because now you see an average Nigeria, you would think that the PVC is like an atomic bomb. Anybody with a PVC will say, okay, we'll wait for you next election. We're going to use our PVC. I think that that's a good development. People power. Okay, that's what we must continue to insist upon.
That's actually fantastic that, people are now saying that they can use their PVC. The question I would ask Reuben is, can that PVC be bought?
Well, this is the whole point we're making about electoral integrity. And, the electronic method of verification and all that was introduced to check a situation whereby, you can either give your card to another person or you can commit fraud with it. But you see that the system, there's still a lot that needs to be done. Okay, there have been complaints about not enough people getting their PVC, even when those PVCs have been issued. There have been complaints of the voters' machine, the electronic system failing on the day of election itself. In the 2015 election, for example, when we got to the voting center, the president's fingerprint could not be read. His card was, being rejected by the machine. Okay? And they just said, some people were calling and they were saying, tell the president, this is enough for him to cancel the election. The President Jonathan said, no, he will not do that. So he went home. The people said they will sort it out, that he should come back. So he went back about 1 hour later. At the end of the day, he was able to vote, he and his wife, and some other members of his family. But there were other people voting at the same center. He had members of his family, except his mom. I think his mom was able to vote. They were the ones who could not vote. But the man said, no, we will not on the basis of this cancel the election. So I'm a citizen like any other person. It can happen to anybody. So that means certain standards, still need to be improved upon. And I believe that the present INEC chairman will understand that on his shoulders in 2019 will be the entire weight of Nigerian electoral history. Because the way Nigerians are preparing for that election, the relevant institution just must make sure it gets it right. And then, of course, voters must be educated. That look, when you sell your vote, when you collect sandwich or you collect money, you are mortgaging your own future. And I assume that, with the reality in many parts of Nigeria now, a lot of people are becoming more conscious that they should not allow their voters card to be bought, because that's their main weapon of citizenship. That's what makes them superior, to those they elect into offices.
Well said. Well said. We are coming to the end of our chat. How would you like to be remembered, Reuben? How would you? I know you're a man of you're a product of the 60s. You're a young man. I would say I'm a young man. I'm a product of the 60s as well. But how would you like to be remembered?
Well, isn't that too early? I don't think I'm that important. I don't think I'm that important. But I'll be talking about how to be remembered. There is still a lot that I would love to do. Maybe when we get to that stage, But for now, I'm still just trying to build up, trying to learn, and trying to make my own contribution to society.
Would you be watching the World Cup?
Oh, of course, certainly. Why not? I mean, Nigeria. The World Cup is a special season for us. And you know how they say, anytime the World Cup is on, everybody is everybody's friend. You suddenly see a sharp reduction in social strife in Nigeria because everybody is busy watching football. And nothing unites the average Nigerian, than football. Yeah.
Expectations are always high.
I hope they will do well. at this World Cup. Their coach seems to be adopting a far more creative approach than we had seen at some other times.
Excellent. Reuben, I always like to end by asking a set of teaser questions. There are 10 questions, and I'll provide you with 2 answers. So it's either one of the answers, and you've got 5 seconds to answer.
Yeah.
So let's go for it. Beauty or brain?
Brain.
Talk or write?
Right.
Republican or Democratic?
Democratic.
University of Calabar or UI, University of Ibadan?
That's a tough one. The 2 schools, I went to the 2 schools. So I can't choose one over the other.
They're not choosing anyone. Sorry?
No, I mean, like, those 2 schools made me now. In addition to other schools. Different times. It's not a question of choice between those 2 because they form part of my background.
Fantastic. Abeokuta or Abuja?
Abeokuta, of course.
To vote or to abstain?
To vote.
Gospel or Afrobeats?
Gospel or what?
Afrobeats. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
I said I would choose gospel.
Gospel, okay. UK or US?
UK.
Parliamentary or presidential system of government?
Parliamentary. I prefer the parliamentary system.
And finally, Soyinka or Chinua Achebe?
That's also a difficult choice. No, I can't choose. Both are part of the building blocks of my career and life. You know, my background in literature. We don't choose. Both icons, made us. We all learned at their feet in literature. So.
Brilliant. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, Reuben. Thank you for agreeing to come on LNC. We hope you would come again, and we'll be glad if you could get the word out as well, because what we are trying to do here on this channel is just to get people talking, and our goal is to get influencers and Nigerians, Nigerians from on social media, to get them talking, and let's get to the root of the matter. You've been able to share with us some of what went behind the scene that many may not have been aware of, and so we are truly grateful for that. Thank you so much, Rueben Abati.
My pleasure, and congratulations. I've enjoyed the program very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.